we have got Chris Miles here with us. And Chris, we appreciate you jumping on here today. Again, I know we didn't buy Dr. Duggar a hat. I don't know if we got you one yet, but we might have to here and get you a pair of boots so you kind of fit in with this crowd. But you, I don't know how many of your contacts jumped on here, but I noticed when I was looking through the people that signed up from your link, there's quite a few. And I just wondered, like, why would you jump on a regenerative ag if you had nothing to do with that? I'm just wondering if anybody's in there. Type in the chat if you guys are just strictly here to listen to Chris Miles. And I hope you'll stick through this. I mean, these messages are as applicable to a banker as they are to a rancher, to a traditional doctor, whatever. We hope that you can find true value here. But are you there, Chris?
I'm here. Yeah.
Hey, wonderful, wonderful. Very good. I like that deep voice and clear, and you've got your microphone, you're all queued up. If anybody hasn't listened to the Money Ripples podcast, that's a great resource. So Chris Miles, I was introduced to Chris about the same time as Dr. Duggar, actually.
I'm going to interrupt because I want to say hi to Chris because I haven't seen you forever, brother.
Hey, Jerry. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Please do. I mean, these guys, we were kind of in a circle at one point, working together to build our businesses, and it was pretty awesome. And I think that actually was where I finally approached Dr. Duggar, was at an event where Chris Miles was speaking. And so I've stayed in contact with both of these great men. Chris has been a great asset to our family and to our business in creating generational wealth. Like, he's helped me to change my paradigm that I'm not only a rancher, I'm a steward over money. And he talks a lot about that in his presentations and in his podcasts about what it means to be a steward. And that really resonates with me because, our company is Ag Steward, but we are much more than stewards over the land and the livestock. We ultimately, are stewards over everything. And while we don't own it, we can expand it and we can help it to grow. And that's very much part of what Chris's message is. And so he's helped us along those lines to diversify into things that are meaningful, not just throw money at a stock or whatever, but things that, I have buy-in and that I like to watch and I'm passionate about. He has a wonderful business, Money Ripples, who's affecting lives of people around the world. He's got a great community there. If you want to connect with him and learn more, I highly recommend doing that. And most importantly, Chris is just an overall great guy, a guy that I feel like I can trust. He's spoken on different things, like just reading through his bio, featured in US News, CNN Money, Entrepreneurs on Fire, Bigger Pockets. And those things are great, but most of all, I would say he's somebody that's relatable. He's somebody that we can connect with. And again, even in the ranching industry, he understands business. He may not know necessarily a heifer from a cow, but he does buy grass-fed beef, and we appreciate that, as does Dr. Duggar. And he definitely tries to support those that have an entrepreneurial mindset. So, Chris, let's jump into your presentation. Let's learn some principles about building legacy wealth, and we'll run with this. Oh, I think we just lost Chris. We're going to get him back on here. So, in the meantime, yeah, so that's kind of what you can expect. Yeah, we lunch breaks, bathroom breaks, just go about your business, and stay tuned in here. Like, we realize that this is a big investment of your time to stay here throughout the day. And so that's why we made the opportunity to be able to get the recording. We hope you can be here because I know how it is for me. A lot of times I'll sign up for something. I've got so many different things that I've said I'm going to go and do and watch at some point that are just sitting in my inbox, but dedicate time to be able to do this. The other thing that you can do, I'm sure as many of you have been watching here, you probably thought, man, I wish so-and-so was here. This person needs to hear that. So if you can go to, I've said don't remove distractions, but this is one time when you definitely can add a slight distraction. If you will go, and I'm going to drop in the chat here, or maybe Justine can. Oh, there we go. It's not too late to sign up for this. Like, we still have 2.5 days of presenting here. So I'm going to drop in the chat the URL for the way to be able to register. And so even now, if you think of people, copy, paste that, text it to them, say, hey, I'm on this. You should really jump on. This is an awesome opportunity. And if you accompany it with a little message, that seems to go a lot further. So we can grow, and we can build this community of people that are striving to be regenerative. Okay, so we're gonna have to do a little editing here because apparently Chris I think he's actually getting ready, or maybe he left for vacation, and we asked him to okay, his computer's restarting. We definitely understand that. We appreciate William's prayer at the beginning that the technology will hold out through this. We're always somewhat vulnerable, but if we were trying to travel, we'd be a little bit vulnerable too, traveling in the winter, trying to navigate layovers and flights and things like that. So we'll be patient.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Could you just share your thoughts on how you see what Dr. Duggar talked about and what Chris is going to be talking about, like how in your mind that's all come together for legacy planning?
Yeah, thank you. That was my wife, Selena. Thank you for joining and supporting. So specifically with Dr. Duggar, we talked a little bit about how important our health is and why that needs to be one of the pillars that we are aware of and that we manage is our health. And as farmers and ranchers, sometimes we have some very poor lifestyle choices. We eat quickly, we stay up late, microwave our food and just go and at certain times of the year. I mean, I know fellow farmers that live on caffeine when it's harvest time, and it just taps out our adrenals and has a huge drain on our system. So that's, to me, looking at our health from a holistic standpoint and being able to realize that this gift of the physical body that we've been given, coupled with our brain and our mind and our spirit, is something that is irreplaceable. Like, we can go and buy a new tractor, guys, but we can't buy a new body. And so that's why it's so important to take care of the one that we have. We only kind of get one shot at this. And so, and with Chris, looks like he's back on here now. Are you there again, Chris?
I'm back now. Apparently,
hey, awesome.
My computer wants to update.
Hey, just the most opportune times, but it gave me a little bit of a chance. Maybe people got to take that bathroom break that they didn't get to take yet. So we're glad to have you back on. And again, tell us, Chris, you just jump in your presentation. I know this is old hat for you. You were behind a microphone and behind a camera all day long. We're just going to let you run with it. Like everything, if you have questions, we'll try to, with the team, pick out the questions that we can at the end. We'll open it up a little bit, and then Chris also has a gift to offer at the end. So we'll pray that your computer doesn't again re-update. Thanks, Chris.
Well, no problem. Now it's down on my phone here. So you guys get the phone. You don't get the booming sound quality of the microphone, but you get this at least. We get whatever we get. And, one thing I've learned is that there are no accidents. Everything happens for a reason, right? So whatever it is, yes, I had a whole PowerPoint ready for you guys to teach you, but let's just have a conversation, right? Because I know I've already used up a bunch of our time. And so let's just jump right in. And so my big thing is about live your life now, not tomorrow. Right? I mean, that's the legacy. I mean, we talk about legacy often about being the someday thing, but what about right now? Because that legacy starts today, doesn't it? It's not something you just put away for someday, or when I'm old and decrepit and I have the grandkids or great grandkids sitting around me, then I create a legacy. You're creating it every single day of your life right now. You are creating a legacy. Even if you're a young parent, you are creating a legacy for your kids right now. And that's what it has to do. It has to start today. And I'll tell you, the big message I always teach is what says on my shirt here, right? Is that cash flow equals freedom. That I've learned this is that many times I see, a lot of the clients I've worked with over the years, the ranchers, whatnot, they're asset rich, but then they're cash poor, right? Asset rich and cash poor. You've got great assets on the balance sheet. It makes it look like you've got millions of dollars of property, but at the end of the day, you're still trying to figure out how to keep it. And if you're like my grandfather, for example, he had a bunch of horse property and everything else, but slowly over time, as he aged, he started selling off bits and pieces of his property until finally, after he passed away, his son just sold off the last of it and went to move away. That childhood, those childhood memories that I had are gone, right? And I'm not saying you have to be attached to land and to stuff, but it's interesting to see that the whole reason he had to sell off bits and pieces is because they just didn't have the money to keep it going. They didn't know how to, although they were trying to do their best to be stewards of their property, they just could not keep up with the expense compared to what the profit it was bringing in. And that's something that needs to stop right now. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the way that you think it is. It doesn't necessarily require you to have to work harder, because that's what I was taught growing up. I remember my dad was a hardworking guy. He always taught me to work hard. Your word is your bond. My mom taught you to follow my passions and my dreams. And as a result, that's what I did. And even when it came to money, he taught me to save everything, just spend nothing, save it all, which is exactly what he did. But I'll tell you, he also said things about money, like there's not enough. We can't afford this. What do you think? Money grows on trees? I'm not made of money, all those kind of things that I heard growing up with him having that Depression era mentality. And so I vowed I never want to be like him. And so when I went to college, being the first one in my family to do so, I want to do something different in my life to break free of that. And so, of course, as time went on, I realized it's not about having a 9-to-5 job. I realized being an entrepreneur is the best way to go. So I was looking for some kind of business to start. The first one that came up was being a financial advisor, not realizing that take anybody off the street, as long as you pass a freaking test and you don't have a criminal record, you qualify as a financial advisor. You don't have to be a financial genius. So that's the route I took for 4 years. I actually dropped out of college with one class to go and kept doing that for a while. But then eventually my dad, who taught me about money, said, Chris, when are you going to become my financial advisor? And so I sat down with him the first time he ever showed me his money, because he was so guarded with it. He did not want to show anybody his money, whatever little he had, because he's always afraid people would try to take his money away from him. That kind of scarcity life. Well, I sat down, I looked at all of his numbers. He paid off his debt. He was debt-free, just like every good boy and good girl should be. He saved up all his money in these retirement plans for decades. And at the end of the day, I said, Dad, here's the deal. If you want to retire today, even though you're 61 years old, you better hope you die in 5 years, because that's when you're going to run out of money. He said, well, what do I do then? I said, I don't know, because you did everything right. Everything that I taught as a financial advisor, you've been doing it exactly to a T. In fact, there's a guy named Dave Ramsey that's following your example that now wants to go and teach people how to do the same thing that didn't work for you. Right? I'm just kidding. Dave Ramsey didn't follow my dad's example, but he might as well have, because my dad's older. He's now 80 years old. So anyways, long story short, I didn't have an answer from my dad. And that put me on a quest. I said, there's got to be a better way, because guess what? I am on the same path as him. I realized that I was saving up my money. This is in the early to mid 2000s. I was saving up my money hoping to do the same thing he did. And it wasn't working for him. So why would it work for me? And it became more apparent when one of my friends pointed out to me, he says, Chris, well, how many of your clients are financially free? And as I kind of thought about it, I said, well, none, because they all worry about running out of money. Even if they're retired, they're not free. Okay, Chris, how about this? How many of you guys as financial advisors are financially free, not off the commissions you're earning, but actually doing these investments? And I thought about it, and I realized there's guys working in my office since the late 1970s. And I said, none. I don't think there's a single guy in this office that's financially free. Chris, there is your problem. Well, as time went on, I started to realize that the answer wasn't in financial advising. I found out I had to do something different. That's where I became the anti-financial advisor, because I realized what you could actually do it in is creating passive streams of income using things like real estate investing, something that's a real, hard, tangible asset, not some airy-fairy piece of crap stock like Apple or Tesla that you hope and pray is going to do something, but you have zero control over it, right? I mean, at least with the dirt you've got, you can do something with it. You can make something work. So that's where I actually broke away from that. And at 28 years old, I was actually financially free to the point where I could, quote unquote, retire myself. Only issue is I suck at retirement. Okay. Like I get bored. I can't just sit around and do nothing, go sit on a beach having mojitos or pina coladas or whatever. That's not me. You know, I can do that for a little bit, but then I got to do something that has purpose, has meaning, that really truly creates a legacy. And that's where eventually I came out of that retirement mode in 2007, started a company. That's where I met Jared for the first time. I helped start that company up. And then after 6 years, started Money Ripples. And here's the reason why Money Ripples exists, is because I'm here to create a ripple effect through people's lives. And I believe that you are too. That each of us are put on this planet, have God-given talents and abilities that we can use to bless lives in a way that no one else on this planet can. And the only sure way for that to happen is for you to be able to free and liberate yourself. And if you can get rid of the excuse of money, or you can't afford to live those dreams or do those kind of things, or you don't have enough time, you can create more time freedom to not only just be with your family and be with those you love, but you can also do what you love and do what you feel is your higher calling, your higher purpose, just like Jared is doing right now. That is the whole purpose of Money Ripples. It creates that ripple effect through people's lives, because as you're blessed financially, you now have a greater capacity to bless the lives of those around you. And so I want to talk about that today, is how do you actually do it? Not just how have I done it, but how could you actually do it as well? How have many of our clients done the same thing, Jared included, right? How have we actually created this passive income so that we become work optional? We can work if we want to keep working, but we don't feel like we're trapped having to survive in that. We have options, right? Again, cash flow is what creates more freedom. So that's what I want to talk about today. Even if you create another 1,000 a month. In fact, by the way, like I said, this conversation, I'm yapping a little way here. Who's actually interested in wanting to know how to create more passive income and or increase your cash flow right now? Go ahead and just type Y for yes or N for no if you happen to be a no person. So you're just, you can have a long bathroom break if you're that person. So, all right. So Larry says yes. Aaliyah's yes. Susan's yes. John's yes. Brandon, yes. Awesome. Pat, nope. Okay, good. Go to the bathroom, Pat. I appreciate it. So good. Well, let's just dive right into this, okay? Because here's the problem, is that many people have this accumulation mindset. They believe that you got to accumulate and save and store up money like you're a freaking squirrel, and hopefully someday you've got something, right? Isn't that the truth? I mean, how many of you guys are just sick and tired of the same old financial advice from financial advisors telling you just to sock away more money and just keep putting away? That's the crap that I taught, and I hate it. And there's guys out there like Dave Ramsey, bless his little Tennessee heart. But here's the problem, is that Dave Ramsey teaches you from a place of scarcity and judgment. He goes and rips into you, telling you you're doing all wrong. But guess what? Dave Ramsey didn't even follow his own freaking advice. You know where Dave Ramsey made all of his money? Number one, selling you his crap. And number two, in real estate. Not in the stock market, not by paying off his debt. No, it was in freaking real estate. And he's got $600 million in real estate, just so you know. And then his business is the financing source to be able to buy that real estate. The stocks, he didn't need jack squat for that. So I'm going to call out Dave Ramsey the way it is, because here's the deal. Like, I think if you're going to be out there, teach people stuff, teach them what you actually did, right? And that's what I want to teach you as well, as what I did, as well as what our clients do. But it's got to start with you not buying into this traditional accumulation mentality, pay off your debt and save in mutual funds where you have zero control, and hopefully that it might make something work. Let me give you an example here. I had a real estate property I bought just 5 years ago in Tennessee. And speaking of Tennessee, right? And I wanted to compare it to the stock market, because the stock market did pretty awesome, because, when you have a lot of government corruption, naturally they start printing more money and they drive up inflation. So it drove up the stock market too. Well, what happened to that little stock market bubble? Well, you made over 10% average in the last 5.5 years. Well, if you use the same amount of money, the same down payment I put into that Tennessee house, $32,000 was my down payment. That same $32,000 in the stock market would have made me, if I actually invested in the stock market, not in like 401k Fidelity funds that don't work, but actual S&P 500, I would have had over $60,000 right now. Now that's not too bad. To go from 32,000 to 60,000 is a pretty dang good rate of return in 5.5 years. Here's the deal. What's the cash flow you could pull off the stock market if you don't want to run out of money too early? The number that's been recommended, they've run the numbers many times. It's not 4% and definitely not Dave Ramsey 8%, which is bullcrap. That's the easy way to run out of money in about a decade. No, but the way to do that is actually pull out 3%. So if you pull out 3% of that $60,000, that's about $1,800, right? That's it, $1,800. That means you get to pull out a whopping $1,800 a year. Now, that same money, guess what? I bought a real estate property. Yes, there's some appreciation, but I'm also getting cash flow on that property every month. $32,000. I'm currently cash flowing over $600 a month on that property now. Also, they're paying down my mortgage for me, so I'm building instant equity. As a result, I've actually made over 300%. I've actually made 160,000 instead of just 60,000 like the stock market. I made $100,000 more than what the stock market actually produced. Now, is that guaranteed? Of course not, right? And you can go buy properties that could totally stink. Just so you know, buy anything in the western half of the United States, you're probably going to buy a bad rental. I know because I'm in Utah. I've seen it. But there are ways to do that. But it's all what the big secret for me that I learned is about the passive income. What income is being generated doesn't matter how much money is there if it doesn't generate real income. That's why I tell people all the time, it's like, it doesn't matter what your net worth is if that net worth doesn't pay you cash, right? Now, what are those kind of investments you can do? Here's the 3 things I'm going to give you as a piece of advice you need to remember. You want to write this down: is get lean, get liquid, get out. Get lean, get liquid, get out. Get lean. This just means be a wise steward of your money. I'm not going to embellish on this. We got plenty of stuff. Oh, by the way, I just made this call today, although I haven't told Justin this. We actually have a cash flow secrets course that we teach. We sell for about $100 on our site. I'm actually giving it all to you guys for free. All right, I'm just going to let you guys have it. It's pretty much the same stuff that Jared learned when he first started working with us years ago. Ways to actually do that. So it's great stuff, teaches you how to find and free up cash, because that's what you need to do. And you want to be able to do that without having to live on rice and beans, right? You could still enjoy your life, but still be a wise steward as well. And so we talk about like just tracking your money. How do you make sure you track your money, ensure that you're actually watching it? Because whatever you watch and you're a wise steward over will increase and grow. Well, whatever you ignore will leave you. You ignore your family, they're going to leave you. You ignore your teeth, they'll leave you, right? My father-in-law can attest to this. You know, you completely ignore your property, it's gonna get away from you. And if you ignore your money, it will leave you too. The best way to increase your assets, increase your stewardship, is to pay attention. So that's a big thing we're going to teach. So again, I'm not going to talk much about that, but again, you can get lean and mean with your money, but not have to be cheap. Prioritize where you spend your money, but if it's not serving you, get rid of it. So that's get lean. Get liquid means, how do we make sure your money is available to us in our hands? Isn't it ironic that, actually, it's not really ironic, it's marketing, but isn't it funny that all the financial advice you're given, really there's 2 main pieces of financial advice you're given from the general media, from financial advisors. It's always the same crap, just, you know, they try to make it sound smarter than it really is. But all they're telling you to do is save everything you got. And if you didn't save enough, it's your fault, right? Because it's not their fault they didn't make you enough money. And then number 2 is pay off your debt. Save all your money, pay off all your debt. That's the key to freedom, is what they teach you, right? I'm here to tell you that our very favorite clients are the ones that were like the Dave Ramsey graduates, the ones that actually did this and realized, oh, that's not enough. It still doesn't generate income for me. I need more than that. And so get liquid means, let's get our money out of those places where they're locked in prison. Because guess what? You put your money in your house, it's locked up in prison, or your property, right? Man, you want to talk to some people, talk to some ranchers, try to ask about how easy it is to get money out of your property. Trying to get a line of credit on that value of the property is not easy. It is dang hard. So that's the thing, is that they teach you to pay off all this debt and be debt free. And I'm not saying that's not I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but there could be better things to do with that equity than throwing it to your property, where it's going to appreciate whether you have a loan on it or not. So that's number 1, is get your money out of prison. That also means don't lock it up in 401ks and IRAs. If you're a person that wants financial freedom before you're 60, well, then a 401k and IRA is the worst place you can put it, because they're going to slap your hand and penalize you with a 10% penalty plus taxes to take it out before you're 60 years old. Doesn't that seem ridiculous? That's like buying your own car and then having to ask your parents for the keys. That's what it feels like, right? That's just ridiculous. And by the way, any 401k and IRA you have, any qualified plan, Roth IRAs, they're all the same. They're owned by the government. The government controls the terms. They can change the rules whenever they want. That's a dangerous place to put your money when you can't control the terms. You are basically a minority partner in your own money that is your funding, while the government can make the rules whatever they want. If they want to tax you more, which by the way will happen, they will have to tax you more as they're starting to increase their debt. they're going to go and attack your retirement plans. They're going to rape and pillage that money out of there, right? So you want to stay away from that. On top of that, so again, get your money out of prison, get your money out of places where pretty much every financial advisor will tell you to put your money, as well as every banker will tell you to put your money. Stop that. Hold it in actual assets. This could be as simple as a savings account. Yes, I know you'll lose inflation, but you know what? I remember in 2022, the spring of 2022, everybody was saying, don't put your money in a savings account. Don't hold it in cash. As a result of that, I said, you know what? If all the media is telling me to do one thing, I've learned the best way to make wealth is to do the opposite of what the media tells you. Because if the media is telling you to do it, they're just trying to get clicks. But two, that's what everybody else follows. That's what the general average American follows, and they go broke. So instead of doing that, go and follow what actually works. So I do the opposite. So I started holding cash in 2022, and now I can make the rules, right? Because now I have the cash. There are a lot of people saying, oh, I just invested all my money. I put it into this place. Susan, minerals can be a good place too. I do like minerals as well. But I actually kept my money in cash so that I could control the terms when people started saying, I need cash now because I just locked up all my money in these assets and I can't get it back out. That's the best time to get it. So do the opposite. This is why when people try to tell me, oh, real estate's going to crash. Yeah, that's what everybody keeps saying. Everybody in the media tells you that real estate's going to crash. How do I know it's not going to crash? Because the media said it. Because whenever there's a crash, a bubble burst, you ever notice that anytime that's happened, if you've lived long enough, anytime it's happened, it's always been a surprise. It's like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen. Wait, housing crashed in 2006? I thought it was going to keep going up. Nope. When everybody thinks it's going to go up, that's when it goes down. Right now, nobody thinks real estate's going to go up, which is why I think it's good. Secondly, if the stock market, everybody thinks that the stock market's a great place to be, that's the worst time to be in the stock market because that's when you lose money. It's like the people that buy crypto. Again, another thing that has no real intrinsic value. It's not like something you could touch, taste. Well, hopefully you don't taste your assets all the time, but it's not, you can't touch and feel it, right? Like dirt, that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by getting liquid, right? Like get your money in places where you can do that. We even talk about infinite banking. That's another strategy we use as well, in addition to having savings accounts just to diversify and do stuff. But again, get your money available in cash so then you can get it out. Now, I know it's the question you guys all been asking, right? Where do you actually invest it? Okay, there's a lot of different options. Again, I'm not going to give you any investment advice because I'm not an investment advisor for one, because I can't stand them. And number two, the truth is that it requires some guidance. But here are some places that our clients are doing, including myself, where I've been investing as well. Number one, turnkey real estate. Turnkey real estate is different than buying the property next door. Turnkey real estate is simply this. There's what's called a turnkey real estate company. They help you find the property. They help you get the financing for it through banks or whatnot, if you need to get financing. And then they actually get you the renters. They help give you the property manager, whether they're the property manager or they connect you with one, and then they manage the property. You just simply buy it, and then you collect the net rent. The crazy thing is, even after collecting property, after all the mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, and even after the expense of even paying the property manager, if you're buying the right areas, mostly in the Midwest and Southeast right now, a little bit around like Texas, Oklahoma too. If you buy in the right areas, guess what? You can usually cash flow at least 6-7% a year on just the rent, not including the fact that they pay down the mortgage for you, and not including the fact that there's any appreciation. You don't even need that. Oh, and by the way, there's tax benefits. I pay almost virtually no taxes on the profits from that real estate because we're able to depreciate the property. Probably like you've experienced yourself as well if you've done that with your own property. So the great thing is I can make returns 4 times. That's why I made over 300% in that kind of market, right? That's why I made over 300% there with that Tennessee property. Now, it hasn't always been that way. Let me tell you about my worst deal that I just sold off in December. We happened to have a bad property manager. It wasn't the turnkey company. It was the one they connected us with. And of course, if we're not wise stewards, didn't watch it very closely, realized that the property manager in charge of our property was actually billing us for every little repair instead of billing their son that they filled as the tenant, we found out later. So long story short, even though I put $40,000 down, yeah, we netted about $7,000 or $8,000 in cash flow over 2.5 years, but we had to go and repair the property and do some stuff. We got some of the money back that they owed us, but we made out with just a little bit of cash. The cool thing is when I sold it, I still made an extra $15,000 on top of it. I still made about a 40% plus return in less than 3 years on that property. That's pretty awesome. The stock market in the last 2 years, flat, made 0%. You're probably a little bit negative if you've been in the stock market. So again, that's why I like real property. So that's a turnkey real estate property. Yeah, it can be awesome, but there can be headaches too. Here's other things you do. You can lend your money. You can become a property lender or an investment lender. You can lend your money to the investors because maybe you don't have to do it. Maybe you have plenty of time doing other stuff. What if you lend your money and they pay you a contractual return? Maybe it's 10, 11, or 12% a year on your money by them borrowing your money and then using it to do that. Russell said, that's a business I'm in. Well, Russell, I don't know. There might be a lot of you guys. We're just going to hit all of your guys' topics. I don't know. But great way to do that. In fact, the last few years have been awesome in the lending space because a lot of people are saying, "Woof, interest rates a little bit higher. I don't know if I want to buy that turnkey property right now, even though the rates now have come down. It's getting a little bit better." But they're saying, maybe I want to do something else. Great. Lend your money to other investors. They pay you on that hard money, as they call it, right? Because they don't have to deal with the banks. They'd rather just deal with you, private money, pay you back as they contractually do. And you can even go as far as getting your name on the property. So if they default, just like a bank where you become like the bank, you lend them money, but if they default on you, you take the property that's backing up your money. So you have collateral on it versus just, hey, I hope this works out, right? So there's things you can do that way, making sure that you have collateral on your money. Another thing you can do, even like you could do franchises, business franchises. We've had people invest in car washes lately. You could do syndications. Syndication is very simple. You're pooling your money with other investors and investing in something like that. So it could be a franchise model, but it could also be something like apartment buildings, which lately haven't been great. So not quite the market right now. There could be self-storage units, which also had a little bit of challenge as well. You could also have things such as mineral rights. Somebody had mentioned investing in minerals. Yes, you can actually buy a business partnership in the land, rent the land to the oil companies, because oil companies, just so you know, don't actually want to own the land. They actually love leasing the land for somebody else so they can just do their work, get out when they need to get out. So they actually lease the land from you. So they're paying you rent for the land and they pay you royalties on whatever they pull out of the earth. And I know a lot of times people talk about green energy and all this crap, but let's be honest, right? I'll quote what I heard Robert Kiyosaki say back in 2007 at a conference when they were talking about green energy then. He said, listen, he's like, right now, we need pipelines because those pipelines feed the farmers down in Texas. Those Texans got to grow food. That food has got to go in the stores. If we want to have anything we want in this world, we got to have some oil to be able to run the machinery and everything that's going on. He's like, until maybe decades from now, when there might actually be green energy like that, I'm going to bet on oil. And you know what? It can be a great bet. I know I'm invested in that kind of thing. I know Jared's done some stuff with that as well. So that's the thing, guys. There's great things you can do, even in the mineral space. Again, where it's backed by land. Another thing you can do too, I've done business partnerships. I have a business partnership right now, speaking of land, in raw land, where we buy it at wholesale, turn around at a retail, and when we sell it to them on terms where they have to pay us interest over the next 5 or 10 years, they pay principal and interest payments like we're the bank. I have one partnership right now. Again, I don't do anything. I finance it. But that partnership, after 2 years, we've put in probably about $350,000 into buying land and whatnot. And right now, my cash flow is over $100,000 a year on that. So great thing is I don't have to deal with it. I let somebody else do the work that I finance. And that's what I mean by passive income. Forget all the crappy marketing stuff you see on Facebook or wherever else. They say you have passive investments by doing real estate, but then they tell you got to flip property, renovate them, and do all that kind of crap, or wholesale property, which is a part-time job or full-time business to do that kind of thing that they claim is quote unquote passive. That's not passive at all, guys. Online, Amazon stores, not passive, right? Passive thing is where you can actually get your money to work harder for you. That's the key thing I'm talking about here. So again, so many different options of what you can do to create passive income. So many what they call alternative investments or Main Street investing versus Wall Street investing, where Wall Street simply just hope and pray, gamble on some stocks that you have zero control in, hoping that's going to produce something someday. Oh, by the way, last 30-year average of the stock market, the S&P 500, has been almost exactly at 8%. That's the real average actual return to the S&P 500. Not 10, not 12, 8. And just so you know, over 90% of mutual funds don't even make that return. So when you get guys out there like Ramsey saying you can save $100 a month for 40 years, you'll have 1.176 million. First and foremost, one, no, you won't, because if you do the math, $100 a month for 40 years, even at 12% is 979,000. So he already did the math off by 200 grand. So you don't hit $1 million. But two, you don't earn 12% in the market. That's why so many people don't even keep up. And then you throw inflation on top of that, and you find out, oh, that $1 million in 40 years is only going to be worth $139,000. Whoop de freaking do. That's not going to do anything for me. And in fact, you do the math, you're like, wow, I just barely make a little bit more than what I paid in after that lifestyle. So that's the thing, guys. Like, if you look at it, you look at the surveys done by Fidelity, for example. Fidelity has 45 million clients. Only 750,000 have at least $1 million. If it really were simple as saving $100 a month for 40 years, wouldn't there be more people with more than $1 million in their accounts with Fidelity? No, because it's not happening, right? In fact, it's 750,000. That's 1.5% that have at least $1 million. And they did another survey. Transamerica did a survey on those people that have at least $1 million. Found out that 35% of them think it'll take, quote unquote, a miracle to be able to retire. So even at that 1.5%, over a third of them don't even think they can retire anyways. That's really like a 1% success rate based on what people might feel is a success rate. 1%. If you go on Google and you look up somebody's reviews and you see 99 one-star reviews and only 1 5-star, would you go with that restaurant? Would you go with that company? Of course not, right? But guess what everybody wants to do with their money when they throw it into their stupid little 401k plans? That's exactly it. So wrapping this up, guys, because I don't know if we're supposed to have time for questions or not. And in fact, I actually have another meeting come up on the back end of this. But here's the thing, is that this is very possible, right? I know I had a client in California where he actually, he had one rental property in California, had 700,000 of equity in it. Again, asset rich, cash poor, because he was only making $200 a month. And I had a hard time convincing him. I said, hey, listen, like, if you sell this property, instead of making $200 a month, you could probably make 75,000 a year. And after 5 or 6 years, make 100,000. He wouldn't do it. You know why? Because he'd been so brainwashed that he should pay off his debt that he was just looking at that. He had the little horse blinders on, right? He's just looking straight ahead saying, no, I got 6 years to pay off the debt, and then I'll make $2,400 a month on my property. And so I worked with him, had to be patient. Finally, a few years later, he did it. He sold that property, and then he went and guess what? He just sent me an email a few months ago saying, Chris, I bought several properties in Louisiana with that equity that I sold from that California property. We're making $8,500 a month. $8,500 freaking a month. Okay. Again, he didn't have to do any money out of pocket. He just had to get his money working harder for him. So you have to work hard for it. I had another client, a very similar situation, but his situation was more, he had saved in his 401k, happened to save $1 million, but his financial advisor said, congratulations, you saved $1 million. You got to live on $30,000 a year because you got to pull out only 3% to make sure that money lasts. He said, listen, I can't live on $30,000 a year. That's ridiculous. Even with a pension, still $30,000 a year is not enough. So he did investments. He bought into an apartment syndication, got paid from that. He got oil and gas. He got into mineral rights type of thing. He got into like some turnkeys as well. Basically diversified into several different assets in this real estate asset class. And his income wasn't $30,000 a year. Now it's $120,000 to $130,000 a year with that same $1 million, right? That's the difference. That's the real difference. And I'll tell you guys, that is what fires me up. That's what gets me excited, because I know that the problem is that there's so many voices telling you to do one thing, but deep down, you probably know, like I did, that something didn't add up. Something didn't quite feel right. You felt like somehow you're being sold crap from these financial advisors and from these financial experts who also work for these financial companies that try to sell you to put your money in with them forever so that they take out their fees forever, whether you make money or not. I realized that's why I couldn't be a financial advisor. I had to make a choice in 2006. Either I stick with it because my pocketbook relies on it, or two, I quit and keep my integrity intact. And I did that. I quit. I ended up being a mortgage broker in 2006 while I was trying to figure out, what can I actually do? What can actually give my dad his life back? Because guess what? My dad worked until he was in his 70s because of what was going on. Worked until his 70s. And then here's the kicker. He retired, enjoyed just a few years until his health went out. And now he's alive, but is he really living? Those years he could have had he done it better. That's kind of legacy I hear all of our clients all the time. They're like, man, I wish I had learned this 20 years ago. And in fact, I'm even teaching my kids right now so that they don't make the same mistakes I made, where I just packed my money away because that's what everybody taught me to do. Instead, I'm doing what actually has been proven to work for literally millions of us that have made money in real estate and doing those kind of things. You do not want to be in a place where you've worked your body to the bone only to not enjoy that life later on. What kind of legacy is that? That's not a legacy I want to leave, and I'm sure you don't either, right? I want to leave a legacy of life, living, of a higher purpose than just merely just surviving, just trying to work my tail off for what, right? I do believe by the sweat of your brow, you worked all the days of your life, but I don't believe that sweat has to mean that I have to work myself to the bone. I believe that actually means I can live a higher calling and a higher purpose to bless more lives. You have the capacity to do the same as well. So guys, that's my challenge to you, is that you can do that or not. As I saw some of the comments here, I was kind of in the middle of this, but yes, there is a calculator you can take. If you want to figure out how much passive income you create in the next 12 months, like legitimately based on your financial situation, you can just go to that passive calculator that they'll send you there. That link that's already in the comments there. You can go check that out. That actually will tell you pretty accurately how much passive income you could create in your situation in just 1 year. It doesn't show you 10 years. Sorry, it's not projecting out. It's pretty simple math that I use from the places that we actually find money and then use it for helping people invest and that kind of thing. And that's what we do. We're strategists and connectors to help people do that. Also, like I said, the cash flow secrets, we'll make sure we get that link to you as well. That will be uploaded to the site, so you guys get that, whether it's in the email or the site. Let's make sure you guys get that, because that's $100 that you guys could save, and it's good stuff. It really is. There's even some tax strategies in there, and there's even a little talk about where you can save money, and also like what do you do instead of doing 401ks and whatnot. So definitely, guys, check that out. So Jared, I appreciate your time today and appreciate you having me. Despite my computer still making buzzy sounds at me, so I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, thanks for going to the backup plan. Appreciate, that's part of being a presenter. You always got to have a plan B. Yes, we've just got just a couple minutes. Yeah. Please thank Chris in the chat. Let him know. Again, we talked about at the beginning of this. Sometimes we have to remove those paradigms. Chris has probably challenged some of our paradigms here, bash on Dave Ramsey. That's almost a sin. Chris, how can we do that? But at the same time, it depends on, are we building a legacy business? Are we focusing on cash flow? Sometimes reducing debt is counterproductive to creating positive cash flow. And so I don't know. I'm trying to think of, there've been some comments and questions that have come in, but let's just talk really briefly. And maybe this is hard to do, but really briefly about infinite banking, Chris. And many of us in this room are familiar with Mary Ann Ehrman, and she's a supporter of what we do, and we support what she does. And I know Jace Young and Legacy Farmer, they also are people in our industry that offer the infinite banking products and things. But could you speak just briefly about what that concept is, and if that is something that you can help people with as well?
Yeah, if you look up infinite banking, like you go search YouTube or the internet or whatever, you're gonna hear that's a scam. And for the most part, it's true. It's pretty much a sales pitch by a bunch of insurance agents trying to sell you a bunch of life insurance, right? But I'll tell you from my experience as being an investor, there's a way to do it, and then there's a best way to do it, right? And the best way to do it is if you can minimize your costs, because here's what it can really become. If it's designed the right way, it can become a tax-free supercharged savings account that the government doesn't control. When we talked about the 401k, right? And they can change the rules whenever they want. They can't do life insurance because it's a contract. Whatever rules are in place, which by the way, the rules are it grows tax-free, comes out tax-free. Even if they change those rules, which they haven't done in 100 years still, if they even change those rules, it doesn't matter. You have a contract. Whatever the rules are in place at the time you buy it, that's what you have. You're grandfathered in. And the cool thing is that yes, there's a death benefit to it, and that's the big downfall. Many people say it's too expensive. And if you buy the traditional stuff, it is really expensive and it can be a ripoff. I know because I got ripped off with one in 2006, which is why I made it my mission to make sure we do it better, right? And you can actually get it to where it pays for itself in just a few years, where you're not putting all your money to these insurance costs. It actually goes in this account. It grows tax-free, but here's the cool thing. You can access that cash from, if you do it right, day one. So you can access that cash whenever you need it, whether it's for emergencies, whether it's for investing, whether it's a blow in Las Vegas. Don't recommend that, by the way, but you could do that. Like, you use it for whatever you want. You have full power and control. You can actually do that. And you can actually even make money in two places at the same time, leveraging the kind of unique line of credit that the insurance has there. So again, if it's done and designed right, it can be amazing. If it's not, it can be a total ripoff. So you got to be careful. But it's the strategy I use to hold my cash, like my emergency savings, especially after all these bank failures. Out of our 300,000 that we keep in emergency reserves, we only keep 50 in the bank, 250,000 in this life insurance policy, because it's earning like 5+% tax free versus 0.1% at my credit union right now, where I get taxed on that money.
There is the very real possibility that we can become our own bank, that we can make this, if it's structured right. And that's why I would reach out to Chris's team if you're looking at it as just maybe an opinion, if nothing else. Is like, is this structured right? Because you want to be sure that it is going into it. But this banking policy could replace your line of credit, whereby you're not paying interest to the bank and you're actually building generational wealth. And so I think it's a good tool, especially for farmers and ranchers. And if you're brand new to it, is there a resource that they can look up specifically where you talk more in depth on this? I'm sure you've got something.
Yeah, moneyripples.com. Yeah, moneyripples.com. We have a whole section on infinite banking. Also, our Money Ripples YouTube channel, we've got like master classes and stuff on it, talking about how that works. And like you said, like, how do you make money twice? Even creating that generational wealth. Some people talk about the Rockefeller concept, like how the Rockefellers were passed on their legacy of wealth. It's very much wrapped up in that too, with estate planning on as part of that. But yeah, there's plenty of information that we've got on our site or on our YouTube channel.
Okay. Yep. So again, to access Chris's gift, I guess we don't have the one calculator uploaded on there, but you go to the same page. It's legacy.agsteward.co/claim-your-gift, claim your gift. And you can see what he has on there, and I encourage you to check that out. Appreciate that. It's somebody outside of the traditional ranching industry, but the principles apply across the board. And that's what we've seen as we have been able to do some cash out refinancing and use arbitrage, which means basically we are getting more interest than we're paying, even though our line of credit and our access to capital, has doubled since we on the short-term capital. We still are cash positive on these investments. And so plus we're building equity there. And so it definitely is nice when you see those checks, or you log in and you see that income coming in every month. Kind of gives you a sense of security, like, man, if cattle prices go down or whatever happens, there's still something else. And particularly in oil and gas, that's been our favorite one so far. Troy Eckert was one of our podcast guests on the Profitable Steward podcast. If you want to check that out, somebody who you can reach out to and make this type of an investment. It's barring some unforeseen thing, it would never go to zero. And it provides some really, really, really good positive cash flow on a monthly basis. So, and we wouldn't have known that had we not networked with Chris and had him kind of look and help us tailor a plan that works for us. So thank you very much, Chris. Any final words that you have for this group of farmers and ranchers and regenerative producers from around the world?
Yeah, you guys are doing good work. You really are. I mean, that's I can't express how much that I want you guys to be able to succeed and grow and prosper, especially if you're good people, which I assume if you're hanging out with Jared, you are, right? Because birds of a feather flock together. I think we need more good people. People have good values, people that actually have good, even American values, right? To teach that to generations beyond, because our country needs it. Our country needs a little bit of saving right now. I think it's still a great country despite all the junk that's going on when you compare a lot of things worldwide. I'm telling you, you guys, there's hope. You guys are the people that should be creating that ripple effect through people's lives. So I just appreciate you guys be willing to invest in yourselves to be here today.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you.